Hey, I'm going to get started by welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is what we call our group learning program, where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. Each Sunday I go chapter by chapter in this book, helping students to be able to understand the foundational teachings that it takes to be able to make your way to enlightenment. And then on Wednesdays, what I do is I get together and I do meditation with you guys, guide you in a meditation session. I'll share just a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha just to give you guys a taste of what he taught. And then mainly I just open up to questions. So any questions that you guys have, would just have a nice discussion, and any questions you would like to ask, you're more than welcome to ask those. The individual who we refer to as the Buddha, he figured out how to get to enlightenment over 2,500 years ago. What enlightenment is, where you've trained your mind to the point where you no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated all the causes and conditions that produce things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are being caused by something external, but what the Buddha figured out is that it's actually your own mind that's causing these feelings, and that's why you can eliminate them. So he shared an entire path, a certain training that you can apply to your mind to get to the point where your mind is completely peaceful and joyful. Part of that is meditation, but there's other things that you would need besides meditation. You wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. So that's why after our meditation, I'll share some teachings with you guys, helping you to understand a little bit of what the Buddha actually taught. If you'd like to meditate and you'd like to chant along with us, I do some chanting as a way to ease into the meditation. There's chanting sheets over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself if you like. You're welcome to chant along. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer. Instead, he used chanting as a learning tool or as a learning device, where today we use it just as a way to help ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you end up chanting, you'll see that you get more benefit out of the meditation. And if you get one of those sheets, you're going to see his in English, the translations of the chants. And you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and said, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. This would be ego or arrogance if someone chose to do this. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't put yourself above people or below people. You just look at everyone as being equal. So I'm sure the Buddha wouldn't have created these chants himself. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, and frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you might actually have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too, because the Buddha was just helping people out of the kindness of his heart. So you're welcome to chant along, and you'll see that you get more benefit as you ease into the meditation. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing some guidance where I'm essentially going to be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness, where everybody here at the temple will just all be meditating and everybody online will just be meditating together. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping. This is all normal. Someone here might even cough or sneeze. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence and you hear a sound, you will cause your mind to be annoyed and frustrated. This is what's actually causing the mind to experience these discontent feelings, is it craves permanence while you live in an impermanent world. So you're going to hear sounds during meditation. Those sounds are going to arise, they're going to change, and then they're going to fade away. And if you understand that that's the way the world works, when you hear a sound during meditation, you just understand, of course, this is the way the world works, that everything around us is impermanent. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll start today's class, just sharing a little bit of the teachings with you guys, but mainly just opening up to whatever questions that you guys have. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like having a tool belt and using the different tools that you need as part of your journey. So there's various courses and classes and retreats that you can learn all the different positions. But since most people are starting out in the seated position, this is a very common position. I'll give you guys some guidance on this to be able to help you along with the seated position. But just understand that what I'm sharing with you are just suggestions or recommendations, because there's not just one fixed way to actually sit in meditation, because that would be permanence. And we don't live in an impermanent world. We live in an impermanent world where things are constantly changing. So different people are going to find different things to be comfortable. So you can use what I'm sharing with you if you like, or if you come up with something on your own that you'd like to use, you can use that too, because there's not just one fixed way to sit. What's important is that the body's comfortable, not painful and not luxurious, but in the middle where it's comfortable. So some people like to sit on the floor, in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa in a wheelchair, you can sit however you like. If you're on the floor, oftentimes people like to have cushions under their rear. So you might have some of these. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everybody doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true for anybody who's in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting here in a chair with my legs crossed. So this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect. With your sternum up and your shoulders back, it'll help keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation. What meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So if you're slouched like this, the mind will have a tendency to be dull or lethargic, or if you're real rigid with the upper body, your mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because this will help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. So again, I'm going to do some chanting to ease into the meditation, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance to be able to help you. So feel free to chant along if you like, and then I'll be back in with the guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Bhutang Mahakewanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakewata Tammo Namang Namasami Supatipano Mahakwato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vichacharanang sammuno Sakatoro kawitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusarang Oto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. Nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาโอตังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมอะระหะสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังโหโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. What I'm going to do is just share a little discussion here with you guys about the teachings of the Buddha, just to give you guys a little taste of his teachings. And then ultimately, I'm going to open up to whatever questions you guys have, whether it's something that I'm sharing that you'd like to ask questions about, something you've heard other places, certain challenges that you might be having. You're welcome to ask any and all questions when we get to that point. If you'd like to ask questions and you're here at the temple, we have microphones in the middle of the room in the white bowl. We also have some up here in the front. It would be helpful if you used a microphone, because that way the people online will be able to hear you. All you need to do is get a microphone and press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on, and if you hold this up to your chin, we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. And then you can keep these microphones with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with them. And then if you're not using it, if you could just turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then for anybody who's online, if you would like to ask questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions that you like by just unmuting your microphone. So this meditation that we just did, it's called Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. This is a primary form of training that the Buddha used in order to train his mind to get to enlightenment. There's other training that you need. This isn't the only thing. Oftentimes people have the misunderstanding that the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. And this isn't actually true. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that leads to enlightenment. It took him 6 years to actually get to the enlightened mental state. But this meditation is an important component to help you to be able to move your mind to enlightenment. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated all the causes and conditions that are producing things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. These are uprooted out of the mind through eliminating the causes and conditions that produce them. The Buddha figured out these 10 individual pollutions that are in the mind, and he figured out the tools and the techniques of how to eliminate those. And when you eliminate them out of the mind performs optimally. You'll notice that the mind has focus, you have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Because in the unenlightened state, when you have these pollutions in your mind, you'll actually lack those qualities. You'll lack focus, concentration, clarity, and memory. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll notice that all your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming, because in the unenlightened state, you'll have a certain amount of bitterness, harshness, and hostility in your mind, and you'll think that it's other people that are actually causing that, and you'll be bitter and harsh and hostile to people, and then you're actually damaging your relationships, and you'll see that all that's coming back to you. But you can get to a point where you're not doing that anymore, where you're being loving and kind and warm and gentle to the people around you, and more you'll see that this is what you experience in your relationships around you. You'll get to a point where you're not even in a bad mood anymore, that it's physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood. So again, this comes through training of the mind. The teachings of the Buddha aren't a bunch of beliefs. You're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. They're also not rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. If you're seeing those kinds of things associated with his teachings, those are misunderstandings. People actually aren't doing what the Buddha actually taught, because he never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. He also didn't teach rules and commandments. He's helping you to be able to cultivate wisdom about the world around you. He essentially took the human psychology and boiled it down to a common understanding that you can understand what's going on with this mind that you have. You know, everything and anything nowadays pretty much has an instruction manual. At home, where I teach in my office, I have this pitcher of water on my desk, and I imagine that pitcher of water probably came with an instruction manual, because pretty much everything comes with an instruction manual. But these days, these things have instruction manuals, but nobody gave you an instruction manual to this being who you are. That's what the Buddha is doing. He's helping you to understand this being who you are, how your mind functions, and how the world functions around you. Because when you're angry, when you're having stress and anxiety and all these other feelings, this is your mind struggling to live in a world that you don't understand. The mind's having certain difficulties. But when we say we awaken to enlightenment, what this means is to cultivate wisdom about the natural laws. There's certain natural laws around you that are affecting you, whether you're aware of those natural laws or not. Just like the natural law of gravity, that when we were a child, we fell down, we bumped our elbows, we hit our head, we broke our toys, and we cried and cried and cried because we didn't understand the world that we lived in. But slowly but surely, we gained wisdom about this natural law. We never believed this natural law. We actually can see the truth for ourselves. We can see, there it is. That's the natural law of gravity. And now what we've done over many years is we've cultivated wisdom about this natural law. And now we navigate the world more peacefully. We can climb ladders, we can ride bicycles, we can get on airplanes and fly all over the world, because we might say that we're fully awake to the natural law of gravity. Well, there's other natural laws that are affecting you. And once you gain wisdom of those natural laws, you can navigate the world peacefully. You won't have stress and anxiety. You won't be frustrated. Nowadays, if you fell down, you would start laughing. Whereas a kid, we might have been upset and angry and frustrated because we didn't understand the world that we were living in. And this is what's happening when you're experiencing anger and sadness and frustration. You're not understanding what's causing that. What people will firmly believe is that it's the outside world that's causing these feelings. You might think it's your mom and dad, your brothers and sisters, your life partner, your children, your boss that is causing you to be annoyed or frustrated. But nobody can insert a feeling into your mind. It's physically impossible to do that. Instead, what's causing this is the mind is having what's called craving, desire, attachment. The mind is longing, yearning. It's craving for things to be permanent. And when you're craving for things to be permanent, while you live in an impermanent world, you can only only be happy when you get what you want or what you expect. You get pleasant feelings when you get what you want. But when you don't get what you want or what you expect, the mind gets angry or frustrated or sad. So the mind in the unenlightened state is craving for things to be permanent, but yet you live in an impermanent world. So for example, let's just say you're in a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend. You get really happy and excited about that. And now when you guys were together, maybe at the beginning of the relationship, everything's going wonderful, because you have very little expectations. You don't really want anything from this person. You're just attempting to get to know this person. And maybe they're calling you and checking in on you, sending you text messages. Maybe they're inviting you to the movies or dinner. Maybe you guys are going to the park, having great conversations. Maybe you're even having intimate contact. But over time, that pleasure starts to wear away, and the relationship becomes disgruntled and frustrated because you have all these expectations in the mind. There's certain things you want from this person, and they don't do those things permanently. And they start getting angry and frustrated at you too, because they want certain things from you. They expect certain things from you, and they can only be happy if you do things their way. And eventually the relationship ends and it breaks up. And now you might be really angry or frustrated. You might be lonely or bored, or you might be missing this person. This isn't your love that's causing this. Instead, what it is it's the mind holding on and craving permanence, wanting this relationship to be permanent, when in reality, this relationship was always impermanent. Ever since the very beginning of the relationship, it was impermanent because you guys were going to die at some point and the relationship was going to be over. Or say you got a brand new car, and now when you got this brand new car, you were so happy and excited with this brand new car, and you parked it at a store and you went inside and you came out and there's a scratch on your car. It's not the scratch that's causing your anger, and it's not the person who scratched your car. It's the mind craving permanence. The mind wants this car to look permanently beautiful when it's not possible. The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. It's only a matter of time before this car starts changing. And if you crave permanence, when you're experiencing impermanence, your mind doesn't like it. So one of the ways to say this is that your mind craves permanence, but another way to say it is the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. You can look at your own life and see this for yourself. And that's what you need to do, because you can't believe me. Don't believe what it is that I'm sharing with you. You need to be able to see it for yourself. Look at your life when you were having the most difficulties and struggles. It was when things were changing. You were changing living locations. You were changing jobs or occupations. You were changing relationships. When things were changing in your life, that was a very challenging time for you. And you can see it for yourself. Maybe take a recent time where you've been angry or frustrated or sad or some other discontent feeling. It could have been this morning or yesterday or last week. Look at that situation with these fresh eyes, because at that time, you might have been trying to blame somebody else for the feelings that you were having. But now look at it with these fresh eyes. What was it that you wanted? What were you expecting? What were you longing and yearning for? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. You would have been excited. But because you didn't get what your mind wanted, the mind was angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. If you can see this for yourself, you can have a real breakthrough to being able to understand what's causing these feelings, because then you can fix it. That's the beautiful thing about the teachings of the Buddha, is he helps you to be able to see what the problems are, but he also helps you to see the solutions as well and implement those solutions. Whereas if you go around continuing to think that it's other people who are causing you to be angry or sad or frustrated, you'll continue to be angry for the rest of your life. And that's no fun. It's no fun to live that way. There's a way to get to a point where you evolve to a higher consciousness where your mind is no longer experiencing anger and sadness and frustration. And the first step of that is to be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Because once you see it's your own mind, then you can actually apply the solution. And one of the solutions is what we just did, this breathing mindfulness meditation. This is part of the solution. But what this meditation is doing is just training your mind to let go. Because in the unenlightened state, your mind doesn't know how to do that. It's holding on and it's craving permanence. That's why when you first broke up with that boyfriend or girlfriend, you were angry or sad or frustrated or lonely or bored. But at some point, your mind let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and joy came back. Or you're like, you know what? If she wants to live in another part of the world, so be it. Well, and your mind let go. But the thing is that the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to let go. So the goal of this meditation isn't to train your mind to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes that's what people think, is that you're trying to eliminate your thoughts. You're not trying to eliminate your thoughts. You're going to have thoughts during meditation, even as an enlightened being. The difference is in the unenlightened state, you will have a bombardment of thoughts. You have lots and lots and lots and lots of thoughts. That might have happened to you today, where you just had lots and lots and lots of thoughts. Or you'll have a thought and you'll follow it for a period of time. You'll look at it, you'll play with it, you'll indulge in it. And then like 2 or 3 minutes down the road, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath, right? Or that's what you'll experience in the unenlightened state. But when you get to this enlightened mental state, you'll still have thoughts. It's just that you'll notice it right away and you'll cut it off and let it go right away. And then in between your thoughts, you'll have quietness and stillness. So the goal here isn't to eliminate your thoughts. The goal is to notice it sooner and sooner and cut it off and let it go easier and easier. What you're doing is you're building an internal mechanism to be able to cut off and let go. Cut off and let go. Because now when you're checking in at the airport and you think your flight's leaving in like an hour and you go to check in and you're giving your bags to the ticket counter and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I'm sorry, ma'am. You can't check in yet. Your flight's not leaving for 3 hours. And you're like, oh, I thought my flight was leaving in an hour. And you notice this anger and frustration starting to arise. You can cut that off and let it go. But if you're not training your mind this way proactively on a regular basis, you're not going to be able to cut that off. It's going to come into your mind. It's going to pollute your mind. You're going to firmly believe that it's the airline company causing these difficult feelings in your mind, and now you're going to be bitter and harsh and hostile with them. But in reality, that's the mind craving permanence. I want every airplane to take off on time, especially the ones you're on, right? Where it's not possible for that to occur. Right? You don't mind if other people's planes are late, but your planes, you want them to take off on time. But the fact is that there's going to be weather issues. There's going to be crew issues. There's going to be maintenance issues. If you travel enough, you're going to meet with a delay at some point because the world is impermanent. But the mind craves permanence. So you need to be able to see this, because when you don't understand that it's your own mind causing these feelings, you'll do something that's unskillful. You'll tend to push people away. You might have pushed away friends or family out of your life where you think that they're the problem. And you might think if you push away this situation or you push away this person, that that's going to solve your problem. This is called aversion. And you can see that that didn't solve your problem because you still get angry. You still get frustrated. If this person is the true cause of your anger and frustration, when you push them out of your life, you would be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. Or the second thing you'll do when you don't understand that it's your own mind causing these feelings is you'll be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, damaging your relationships. And you can see when you're bitter and harsh and hostile, those people are bitter and harsh and hostile right back to you. And you keep experiencing that over and over and over again. So you're going to need to improve that in order to experience improved results in your life. Or the third thing you'll do is you'll put your expectations on people, trying to pressure them to do things your way. So the mind will push people away. It'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile, and it'll start putting expectations on people. And you might actually have people doing this to you too. Your friends and family might actually be pushing you away. They might be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you. Or they might be putting pressure on you to try to do things their way. So you can't live harmoniously with all beings as long as your mind lacks this wisdom of what's truly going on. So the Buddha is helping you to be able to see true reality in a way that you can now skillfully work with your mind, apply the tools and the techniques, and train your mind to be able to let go and not crave this permanence. But there's more than just meditation. So the Buddha taught an entire path of training that you would need to gradually learn, gradually implement in your day-to-day life, and then you'll gradually see results over time. So I'm going to stop here and see if there's any questions that you guys would like to ask. Remember, we have microphones here. And then for people online, you guys can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, letting me know if you have questions. So is there anybody here, anybody online that would like to ask a question? Yes, please help yourself. There's microphones around.
I'm really new here to be here and really new to the Buddha, but I'm really curiosity about like you have talking about like being permanent and knowing about see yourself, but not you pushing others. And I don't know why. What is the way that we are? Does that mean that we don't have expectations or pursuing about others in the world? That we always pursuing ourselves? They're not. I don't know whether I explain this in the right way.
Yeah, what the unenlightened mind does is it'll have expectations of people. It'll want people to do things a certain way. It's craving permanence. The mind has a certain idea that this is how the world should work, and the mind wants the world to work according to you. And the mind's ego, the ego is thinking I'm right and everyone else is wrong. The mind will think my way is the right way and everybody else's way is the wrong way. And it has this idea of this is how the world should work. And when the world when they're experiencing those types of things, they'll be happy and they'll be excited about that because they're getting what they want. But when the world's not functioning the way that they want it to function, when they're not getting what they want, then the mind will experience anger and sadness and frustration. So this is the mind craving permanence, wanting or expecting people to be a certain way. And the mind thinks that my way is the right way and everyone else's is the wrong way. Where in reality, there's multiple quote unquote right ways to do things in the world. And all of us have had different experiences in life, so we will do things differently. That's impermanence. But the mind craves for people to do things a certain way. So your parents, your siblings, different people, life partners, children, people will have expectations of these people. And then you will impose those expectations on others, trying to get them to do things your way. And when they don't do things your way, you'll have frustration and anger. And the mind firmly believes it's coming from the other person, where in reality it's coming from your own mind. So you need to get to the point where you don't put expectations on people and you don't try to pressure people to do things your way. Instead, understand that part of loving someone is to love them as they are, where you can disagree with the choices and decisions that people make while still loving the person themselves. Because to love someone is to have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. That's what love is you have a genuine interest in seeing this person be well. And part of that person being well is to have the freedom to make their decisions in their own way, the way that they like to make them. The interesting thing about the unenlightened mind is, like, if I asked all of you, do you like it when people put pressure on you to do things a certain way? You would probably say, no, I don't like it when people do that to me. But yet the unenlightened mind does that to other people. The mind will constantly try to convince mom and dad, brothers and sisters and others to do things your way, but yet you don't like it when people do that to you. So you've got to be able to see part of loving someone is you can disagree with their choices and decisions because they're going to make different choices and different decisions. You'll never agree with anybody 100% of the time. There's only one person who you'll agree with 100% of the time. Do you know who that person is? Yourself, right? So if you can only love people and you can only have peace and joy and happiness when people do things your way, that means you can only love yourself. And sometimes people even have difficulties doing that, is loving themselves. So you've got to separate these choices and decisions, understanding that I can disagree with what mom and dad are doing, but I can still love them as a person, meaning having an interest in seeing them be well. I can disagree with brothers and sisters. I can see what they're doing, and I wouldn't do it that way. But the fact that they are doing it that way, that's their choice, that's their life. And I don't need to tell them what they should or shouldn't do. I can just love them, meaning have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. And this is where you can get to freedom and you can get to peace, where you're not going around the world trying to convince everybody to do things your way.
Oh, thank you. And in that way, I think, like I'm lucky in this world. There are a lot of person who born like in disabled, or they are not less of the fortunes. In that way, do you mean like those emotions and those like expectations and pursuing for the desires are not necessary for that?
So can you say that again? I didn't understand the question.
Like the desire that you've mentioned before, like all those emotions, bad emotions, are they necessary? Like you mentioned before, like cut off.
Yeah.
right?
All these painful feelings that you experience, people think that's normal. They think that that's a normal human response to some situation. And it is normal for an unenlightened being to experience that. But there's this better way of life that the Buddha taught that not too many people are familiar with. But here in Thailand, they're very familiar with it. This is why it's so peaceful and quiet here and so joyful. The Thai people really have it all figured out. Of course, everybody here is not enlightened. They still have certain challenges too, but they've learned these teachings growing up as children. So these emotions that people tend to think are normal, it's actually not normal. That you can actually get to a point where your mind has opted out of that, where you've trained your mind to no longer experience that, where your mind can be bright and cheerful and glad and uplifted and radiant at all times. You can be cheerful permanently, because in the unenlightened state, you can only be happy when you get things your way. So if mom and dad do this and brothers and sisters do this and my boss does this and the weather is this and my bank account is this and I have this kind of house and this kind of car, then I'll be happy. So your happiness is actually shrinking in the unenlightened state. This is why some people are old and grumpy or old and irritable, because they have all these expectations in their mind of what they want in order to be happy. So they're sabotaging their ability to be happy, and it's just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. Where what you do is you get rid of all of that, and now you can be happy no matter what. Because in the unenlightened state, you'll be happy like when it's sunny, but when it's raining, you'll be sad. Or when your bank account balance is up here, you'll be happy, but when it's down here, you'll be sad. But as an enlightened being, you can be happy whether it's sunny or raining. It doesn't matter, because you understand it's impermanence. It's just impermanence. That's all it is change. You can be happy when your bank account balance is here or here. You're not happy because of your bank account balance. You're happy despite the fact that your bank account balance is moving up and down, or any number of other things that are changing in your world and in your life, because things are constantly changing. But the mind's clinging to all of this stuff, wanting it to be permanent, when in reality you live in an impermanent world. So I don't think of it as bad emotions. I don't think of it that way. I just think of it that there's these pleasant feelings, there's these painful feelings, and then there's these neither painful nor pleasant feelings like shyness or uncomfortableness, right? You can actually train your mind to not form its inner feelings based on external circumstances. You can get to a point where your mom has died and you wouldn't be upset. You wouldn't be angry, because that frustration, that sadness and sorrow, it's not coming from your love. It's coming from the mind holding on and craving permanence. As long as the mind gets what it wants, it's happy. But when it's not getting what it wants, it's experiencing painful feelings. Mom's alive, happy, I'm getting what I want. Mom's not alive, the mind's angry or sad or frustrated. So you can get to a point where you understand that mom is impermanent, that she was born and then now she's going to end up dying someday, just like every single one of us. This is just a normal part of life. But because the mind craves permanence when it experiences death of people close to you, you'll grieve and have sorrow and sadness. But you can actually experience life very differently. You can have appreciation and gratitude that you had this woman in your life, and it's so wonderful that you had this woman, but you don't have to be sorrowful and grieving just because she's no longer here. And this is that better way of life that the Buddha taught.
Wow, thank you. And the last question, I don't know whether it is implied to ask, because I'm new to the Buddha. I live in China. So there's a habit for a Chinese person who go to the temple, like pray for their business, for their like promotions and all those things. I don't know whether the pray is a verb to explain that, but they always pursue for the Buddha. Like, I want to get a job promotion, I want to earn more money. In that way, it's a proper beliefs in Buddha.
That's not what the Buddha taught. In fact, the Buddha said very clearly that you can't obtain these things through prayer. He said that if you could obtain these things through prayer, who among us would lack for anything, right? If you could attain more money, or you could get your boyfriend or girlfriend to come back to you, or you could get a bigger house just through prayer, then who among us would lack anything? Because we would just pray for it and we would get it. So there's no prayer in the teachings of the Buddha. You can't pray to him and then he's going to magically create some benefit for you. If you're going to experience increased amounts of wealth in your life, It's going to be through decisions that you make. It's a cause and effect. When you make wise decisions, you will experience wholesome results or wholesome karma. When you make unwise decisions, you will experience unwholesome karma or unwholesome results. So the Buddha is focusing you on cultivation of wisdom and training your mind and uprooting these pollutions out of your mind, because as long as you have these pollutions in your mind, you're going to tend to make unwise decisions, and then it's going to produce unwholesome results. So one of the lack of wisdom that the mind has is people will sometimes go to the temple and they pray and they think that that's what the Buddha taught. But now we're 2,500 years away from the Buddha's lifetime, that a lot of people don't study his original teachings. In China, they have a branch of Buddhism called Mahayana Buddhism, which is quite far removed from what the Buddha actually taught, because it has rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. Even here in Thailand, you'll see people doing those things occasionally, but that's their practice. That's what they choose to do. We're not here to impose what we think onto those people. But since you asked me, the prayer is not part of the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha taught that there's 4 things that are desirable, lovely, and agreeable, and that people wish for these things, that they wish for long life. They wish for beauty, they wish for fame, and they wish for peacefulness, and they wish for being born into the heavenly world. And he says none of these things are actually obtainable through prayer. And you can see that he never taught any prayer. So when you see people doing that, that is misunderstandings that they're having. If you are interested in experiencing peacefulness, if you're interested in experiencing increased amounts of wealth, you need to practice the way of obtaining those things. The way of obtaining those things is to cultivate wisdom, make better decisions, and then you'll experience better results in your life, not prayer.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, please.
Can I ask a follow-up question on the expectation part?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you mean your relationship to your partners, to your parents or your friends, you would have some expectation, and when they do not behave as the way you expected, you would feel annoyed, blah, 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 blah. And that's more like personal feelings. However, we also experience some situation where you're at work. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, your colleagues, mm-hmm. when they got this job, the company has expectation for them to perform in this job role, while they fail to meet the expectations. And that caused some inconvenience or troubles to you, and that caused you, annoyed or upset. So when the expectation not from you, from the outside of the world, and someone fails to meet the expectation, causing problems to you, how would you deal with that? Like, the expectation does not come from you, it's from outside world.
Yeah, if somebody has expectations of me and they become angry or frustrated because I haven't met their expectation, it's their mind causing that anger and frustration. I haven't caused that anger and frustration. It's their own mind. I'll just give you a simple example. Let's just say my wife says to me, she's on her way to bed. She goes to bed at 8 o'clock in the evening, usually a little bit earlier sometimes. Let's just say she says to me, "Hey, David, would you mind taking out the trash?" And I say, "Sure, no worries, I'll take out the trash." If she goes to bed with the expectation that I will take out the trash, and she wakes up in the morning and just say, "I forgot and I didn't take out the trash," and now she sees the trash is still there, if she gets angry or frustrated about that, her mind caused that herself, because she was longing, yearning, she was expecting this to happen, right? Whereas if she goes to bed and says, "Hey, do you mind taking out the trash?" I'm like, "Sure, I can take care of that." And she knows in her mind, because of impermanence, that this may or may not happen. He may do it and he may not. And now when she wakes up in the morning and she sees the trash there, instead of having an expectation and getting angry, she can just understand, okay, he didn't take out the trash. And now she can decide how would she like to handle it. She could either take out the trash herself, she could talk to me, she could discuss it with me, she could say, "Hey, do you mind taking out the trash?" "Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. I'll take it out. No worries." Right? Or whatever the discussion is, right? So in a company setting, in a professional setting, if a boss has an expectation and his employees or her employees don't do things a certain way, they will get angry and frustrated. But they are causing their own anger and frustration, because you can also manage employees through guidance, where you're having a goal and an objective for your employees to meet a certain objective, but you're not expecting it. You're not wanting it and longing, yearning for it. And now when your employees are falling short of your goal of what you're looking for them to achieve, you can sit down and have a cordial conversation and a professional conversation and see where is their lack of understanding so that then they can make improved decisions. But if you have an expectation, you'll get angry and frustrated, and you won't be able to sit down and have a cordial conversation. You'll be really angry and frustrated, and now you're going to damage your relationship with your employees, and now they're not going to want to work for you. Nobody wants to work for an angry, frustrated boss, right? But if your boss sits down with you and says, hey, I noticed that you're not doing this or you're not doing that. I'd like to talk to you about it and see where do you need my help to be able to do this better. Now you're like, oh, I can work with this person. Yeah, this person is willing to work with me. They understand I'm not perfect, right? So that's what you would like to be able to do, is work towards certain goals and objectives, but not have expectations. Right now, if you have a certain goal and if you accomplish it, you get really happy and excited. But if you don't accomplish it, you get angry or frustrated. This actually isn't a goal. This is a craving, desire, attachment. This is a want or an expectation, and you can only be happy if you get what you want. You would like to work towards true goals, which are things that you're working towards, but you're not basing your feelings on whether you accomplish that thing or not. So if you're 80% of your way towards something, you can say, I haven't met this goal here, but you're maintaining your peace. You're maintaining your joy. You know what? I could extend my timeline and give myself more time, or I could add more resources to this, or you know what? I'm fine with the 80%. I don't even need to go any further. And now you can maintain your peace and joy. But if you have a craving, if you have a want, if you have an expectation, you can only be happy if you get what you want. And because the world is not permanent, it is impermanent, you're not going to always get what you want. So you're setting yourself up. You're sabotaging yourself to experience anger at some point because you're not going to always get what you want. So you need to be able to navigate the world where you're not putting expectations on others, and you're not putting expectations on yourself. Instead, you just have certain goals that you're gradually working towards through wise decision making, but you're not forming your feelings based on whether you accomplish that or not.
So you mean like you can't control how other people behave. You only control your mind, how to see it and
Exactly.
think about it.
Exactly. You can't control what your boss does. You can't control what your children do. You can't control what your life partner does. All you can do is choose to respond to the situation. You're not interested in reacting. You're interested in responding. And now you respond through wisdom instead of through your anger and frustration and agitation. Because when you respond through that, or you react through that, it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. So you would like to understand that your goal in life isn't to control your life partner, your parents, your brothers and sisters, because they're making their own decisions. You can't control them. All you can do is control your own mind and how you relate to this situation. And if you have these pollutions in the mind, which is the unenlightened mind, you won't react wisely. But when you get rid of these pollutions, you can respond to every situation, even when it's something that you would prefer not to happen. So like my son, there were times where he came home with less than perfect grades, right? He came home with like F's on his report card. And I was like, okay, this is not wise. This is not helpful. This young boy, I think he was in 6th grade, right? And I was like, we need to solve this. This isn't going to be helpful for him. So we sat down, we talked, I discussed to him, why is it that you're getting these grades? What is happening? He explained to me his side of the story. So then we had a meeting with his teacher, and we went in and talked to his teacher, and his teacher explained exactly why he had the F's. And he sat right there and he understood, and he said, okay, I'm going to do this differently now. I'm going to make different decisions. Okay, perfect. Next grading period came around, he still had an F. And I was like, what's happening? I was like, we sat down and we talked about this. Whereas if I had an expectation and I wanted it this way, I'd be angry and frustrated. And I'd be yelling and hollering. But you can train your mind to not do that. You can train your mind to understand that the world is impermanent. Your goal isn't to force other people to do things a certain way, and instead make wise decisions. And that's what I've done, is now I guide him in his grading. And now he makes decisions to be able to get good grades. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. The second question I want to ask is, well, you were mentioning like the Enlightenment course would train your brain to not have some feelings like sadness, frustrations, and boredom. I think one of them that you mentioned. Can I interpret it as like boredom is considered as a negative or painful feelings in your mind? Because there are a lot of academic areas like psychology or sociology, boredom is considered as a neutral state. It's kind of like the state showing that your life has nothing to worry about. So you have this sense of boredomness.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, like in Buddha or in the Enlightenment course, how do you see boredom? Is it actually a negative or painful feeling, or is it actually a neutral one?
So there's three feelings that an unenlightened mind will experience, and these are called conditioned feelings, that based on some condition, you will then experience a feeling. So based on the fact that the sun is present, you will then be happy. That's conditional happiness. And that happiness is going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. Because if you base your feelings on the sun is not permanent. So that means as soon as the sun's gone, you're not happy anymore, right? So that's the problem with conditioned feelings, is that they arise, they change, and they fade away. And there's three feelings. Pleasant feelings, which is like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. There's painful feelings. Sadness, anger, frustration, stress, anxiety, guilt, shame, fear, stuff like that. Then there's neither painful nor pleasant. I put boredom and loneliness in there, but some people say that's painful for them. So they could put that in the painful category if they like. Shyness is a good example of neither painful nor pleasant, or uncomfortableness. Like if you were sitting on a bus and someone you didn't know came and sat really, really close to you and your body was touching their body, you might say, it's not painful, it's not pleasant. It's neither painful nor pleasant. So these are called conditioned feelings. These feelings arise, change, and fade away. By the time you get to enlightenment, you're not experiencing any of those any longer. They've all been eradicated from the mind because you've uprooted the causes and conditions that produce them. Instead, you're experiencing unconditioned mental qualities. That these unconditioned mental qualities, there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for you to experience those. So the happiness in the enlightened mental state is permanent. It's a permanent, bright, cheerful, glad, and uplifted mind, that there doesn't need to be any condition met for that to exist. So an enlightened being, when they wake up in the morning, they're already happy. They see it's sunny outside. Okay, they're already happy. They go take a shower. They come out and they see it's raining. They're still happy. Right? But an unenlightened being, when they wake up in the morning, they might be grumpy and irritable because they didn't get enough sleep. They see that it's sunny outside. They get really happy. And then they go take a shower, and then they come out and it's raining, and now they're sad and frustrated. So their mind's going up and down like this. But you can actually get to a point where your mind just always bright. It's always cheerful. It's always uplifted. But you need to train your mind to not have conditional feelings, basing your feelings on external circumstances, where your mind can have these unconditioned mental qualities, not feelings that arise, change, and fade away. Mm-hmm.
Can I ask your opinions to boredom? How to pronounce that word? Boredom. How you see it? Do you see it as like a pleasant or neutral way, or painful?
I classify it as a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, but some people say it's painful for them. So that's their perspective. So it's not, my opinion isn't what I would say applies to everybody. If you see it as a painful feeling, okay, you see it as a painful feeling. What you need to do to eliminate it doesn't change. Whether it's a pleasant feeling, whether it's a painful feeling or a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, the teachings that the Buddha shares with you, it's the same thing, regardless, whether you see it as a painful feeling or neither painful nor pleasant feeling.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I have a question for my work. I have a team with 70 people, and my boss is not agreed to like I do something, and now he decided not only to speak to me, instead don't speak to all of my team, and it makes some pressure to me because I think I do the right things and it is good what I do. But he said that I have a sorry, I did not know the word. The responsibility for all them, and if I did not do what he want, then the other would be down with me. And now I'm asking myself what I can do to go with my words, but not be maybe the reason for going down the other people. Yeah, it's not going down, it's they cannot talk to my boss.
Mm-hmm. So I can only give you very general advice because you're sharing very general things with me, right? So in a situation where there's a conflict between an employer and a employee, right? Your boss and you, when there's a conflict, that means there's a difference of opinion about something, which is normal. This is impermanence. Not everybody's going to think the same way. But the challenge is that in the unenlightened state, the mind craves for everybody to agree, right? So your boss may have this craving, this longing, this yearning for you to do things his way, right? And your mind has certain cravings of the way you want to do things. So in these kinds of situations, you need to be able to let go of any craving and clinging, but the mind will have a hard time doing that. And you can't tell your boss to do that because his mind doesn't know how to do that. All you can do is sit down and talk with this person, help them to see that there's multiple ways to be able to approach any particular problem and challenge, and see if they would be open to you implementing your ideas and your way of doing things. And this is where conversation and discussion has to take place. There's no magic way of saying something and then he instantly is going to agree with you. Instead, it's more about learning the entire path. Like the Buddha has this entire path here. Let me show you. I have an image here that I can show you that is, this is the core central teaching of the Buddha. It's called the Eightfold Path. This is where you would normally start to learn. And you need to learn with resources that are based in the original words of the Buddha. That's why I give away these books for free. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can download it from our website. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon. You need to start with this book and gradually learn this teaching, because you need to be able to learn how to have each one of these factors in your day-to-day life and the way that you interact with your boss, because then you'll be able to more easily sit down, have a conversation with them. And at the end of the conversation, they still might not agree with you, but at least you guys can get to some compromise, whatever that might be. Either you can feel 100% comfortable with what he's asking you to do, or he can feel comfortable 100% what you're planning to do, or maybe you guys can blend your ideas and come up with a compromise, or maybe you guys can just choose to do things differently and they're okay with that. But you'll struggle in trying to have that conversation when you're not practicing this, because what the Buddha is teaching you is the natural laws of how to say, for example, speak in wise ways that's going to produce wholesome results for you. So I can only explain to you very generally like this because that's what we have the time for, and that's what you're sharing with me. But if you get this book from our website or from here or other places, this is a good place to start. And then you can learn in our online classes or here in the temple, and you'll be able to gradually learn the path and implement it more and more, and see that you'll be able to have wonderful conversations about things. Like even here at the temple, this temple, they invited me to come here and actually teach. That's how you teach at a temple. You don't just walk in and start deciding to teach. There's going to be people that are already here at this environment that are going to invite you. So they invited me to come here about 8 years ago. They invited me to start teaching here, and slowly but surely they've, given me this classroom to be able to teach in and stuff like this. But there's times where they had difference of opinions about what I should or shouldn't be doing in terms of how we interact in the community. And I just needed to sit down and talk with them and discuss it with them and help them to be able to see. And you'll do that much better when you understand this. Mm-hmm.
Good that you say that. I think you had the need to talk to him because you wanted to stay here. I have no need to talk to him. My ego said, don't talk to them because they spend your time. I know that's not the right way, but it is for me, yes, easier not to talk, because I did not know how to explain what I feel. Also, I feel it is a better way, like I do, but they feel real that it is a better way, like they want me to do.
Yeah.
I know, but I have no, I have not it's not the time. I have all the time. It is not the energy to explain them, because I think they did not want to hear what I feel.
Yeah, so that's the problem with the unenlightened mind, is that you will struggle, you will have difficulties, you will find it challenging, you will be complacent and not willing to apply the effort and energy to help people around you to understand. I don't want to stay here. That's would be the mind longing, yearning. I'm interested in teaching here, and this has turned out to be a great place for me to teach, but I'm not holding on to it and clinging to it because I understand that this is not permanent. So if they came to me someday and said, hey, David, we're not interested in you teaching here anymore. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'll see you later. And then I will go, appreciate you allowing me to teach here the time that I did, and I'll go somewhere else. Right. So I'm not going to be upset. I wouldn't be angry because I already know that this is not permanent. Right. So if you learn and practice this and you train your mind, you will have the energy and you will have the ability, the wisdom to be able to talk with the people around you and help them to understand your approach, because it is wise to make sure your boss understands your approach to how you're doing things and making sure that they're on board with what it is that you're choosing to do. Because if you run into any issues, you would like to be able to turn to that person for support. And by having conversation with them, then they will understand your approach. And without conversation, they wouldn't understand that. Yep, you're welcome. I saw some other hands. I'm going to, while you guys are getting the mics, I'm going to have this person online. It looks like Darren, you have a question. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, David, can you hear me?
Yes, I sure can.
Hey, it's a couple of questions, really. One was a simple one about breathing. My breath, my natural breath, is quite shallow and quick. So as far as I know, you shouldn't really try and control our breath as we're meditating, right? So is that okay to just follow my shallow, fairly quick breath?
So you would like to understand that the volume of air that each one of us breathe is going to be different because our lungs are different size, different capacity, but the rate or the pace that we breathe is going to be somewhat similar. So when I teach in meditation to develop a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, what I'm saying there is to develop this. Oftentimes, the way that we breathe prior to this training is not very conducive to meditation because we'll breathe very shallow and very rapid and very quick. And if your mind is connected to that, then your mind's going to also do that. It's going to be very quick and very rapid. So I'm going to use this mic and I'm going to let you hear how I breathe into the mic. And I didn't breathe this way from the beginning. I needed to train the body to be able to do this. So you're going to hear the rate of what I'm breathing. So I'll just use this mic. Can you hear that, Darren?
Just about, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Here's how I breathe. You can see it's a very slow pace. It's about a 15 to 20 second inhale with a little bit of a gap, and then another 15, 20 second exhale. And again, the length of time there is going to be different because that's based on the volume of air that you take in, but you would like to have a nice, slow, steady pace. So I needed to train the body and the mind to be able to breathe without meditating. I just sat there with my eyes open and just kind of got used to breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. And I did that for a good week or so. And then after I would sit there for 5-10 minutes, kind of training the body and the mind to be able to breathe gradually and slowly through the nose, then I would close my eyes and start trying to meditate, because you do need to develop a nice, slow, steady, consistent breath. That's what I teach.
Okay, yeah. Because I was just confused because it sounds like controlling your breath, and I'm reading that you shouldn't control the breath. You should just arrive with reality as it is and observe that.
The control part is to not force it, right? So, but you are going to need to train the body to breathe more gradually. That's what it means by gradual. Develop a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Develop this. So you are training the mind and the body to be able to breathe. So this natural breath that I'm talking about, it doesn't mean to breathe the way that you're currently breathing. That's the way that people think when I say, a nice natural breath. What they hear is breathe the way you're currently breathing. That's not necessarily true. You're going to need to gradually develop this nice, natural, steady, consistent breath.
The consistent breath it's a way of breathing that you breathe all the time, is what you're saying?
No, it's nice, natural, steady, consistent breath and meditation. So what you will find is that when you train your body and mind to breathe this way in meditation, you will tend to breathe that way in day-to-day life. But the way that most people are breathing prior to this training is very short and very rapid. And that's not what's going to produce the qualities that you're looking for, because you really need to calm the mind down and slow it down. Because with craving, desire, attachment in the mind, you'll tend to go. That's what you're going to be doing in your day-to-day life. And that's the way you're going to be breathing. So you need to slow that down so that when your mind is connected to that it's going to slow your mind down so that now you can think through your decisions much better.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, okay, that helps a lot. That's what I was initially doing, and then I read something that said you should just meet reality as it is, and I've just followed my natural shallow breath, and it's much harder to concentrate. So, and the second question is about enlightenment, and it's I'm just wondering what's so special about happiness. Why is it that enlightenment brings happiness? Why isn't it a neutral feeling that arises? And isn't enlightened happiness impermanent too? Why doesn't that rise and fall also? So I guess it's why is it that happiness arises upon enlightenment and not a neutral feeling? I don't.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
So in the unenlightened state, you're experiencing conditioned feelings that your mind is going to base its feeling on some condition. And that condition that's producing the happiness is not permanent. So therefore, your happiness is not permanent. It's arising, changing, and fading away. The happiness that you're experiencing in the enlightened mental state is unconditioned. There doesn't need to be any condition met in order to experience it. It's not a feeling. It's a mental state where the mind is always bright, cheerful, glad, and uplifted at all times. The mind's always radiant. There doesn't need to be any condition met. So that's why it doesn't arise, change, or fade away, because there's no condition that is producing it. One of the ways to think about it is the unenlightened mind has these pollutions that are in the mind. And when you get these pollutions out of the way, the quality of the natural mind, the natural state of the mind, is enlightened. So if you have the sun and you have clouds in front of the sun, if you peel away those clouds, the rays of the sun will slowly start shining through. The sun was always there. It's just that you couldn't experience it because the clouds were in the front of it. But when you gradually peel away the clouds, the rays of the sun are slowly starting to shine through. So the same thing is true, is that the natural state of the mind is enlightened. It's always there. It's just that these are pollutions that are in front of it, hindering you from being able to experience those qualities. And when you peel away those pollutions, that's where the qualities of enlightenment start to shine through. They don't arise, change, or fade away. They're just there because that's the natural state of the mind. The only difference in the analogy here is that in the clouds with the sun, they're going to come back. But once you uproot these pollutions out of the mind, they never come back. It's impossible for those pollutions to actually re-enter into the mind once you've uprooted them, because the mind's been completely rewired by the time you get to enlightenment.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just so the natural state is happiness, because it feels like happiness is just a feeling. I know you're saying it's conditional or not conditional, but happiness is a feeling or a state. No, yeah, it's a state just like any other state, right? Or it could. Why isn't it boredom that arises, or nothing that arises? You know.
Have you ever?
I don't know whether I'm making that.
Have you ever been somewhere before? Like maybe you're sitting on a bench, you're looking at a landscape or something. You're just sitting there and you're like, "Wow, I don't need anything. I could just sit here and enjoy this all day long." Have you ever had that feeling? Or should I say, have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Just recently, yeah.
Okay.
Sitting there watching the sea. You know?
So that's being inwardly content, inwardly joyful. I don't need anything external to experience this peace and this joy. That just this experience of just sitting here, I don't need anything else. I can just sit here and be completely joyful, right? That's what the enlightened mind is experiencing at all times. The unenlightened mind is, I'm not happy with this amount of money. I want more. I'm not happy being single. I want a boyfriend or girlfriend. I'm not happy with this car. I want a better car. I'm not happy with this house. I want a different house. The mind always thinks the grass is greener on the other side. So it can't be content with what it's got. It always wants something else. It always feels like it's lacking. So the mind is always struggling because it has these expectations that you want this, and the mind's always fighting and struggling to try to get up to that. And even if you get up to that, you'll only be happy temporarily, and then your expectations will grow and you'll want more, right? So that's why in the unenlightened state, you can't always be happy. You can't be permanently happy because you're basing your happiness on something external. Where the enlightened mind, you're not doing that. The mind has unconditional happiness, where there doesn't need to be any condition met for there to be happiness in the mind. In this book, in the back, there's a frequently asked questions section all the way in the back. In there, this is a frequently asked question that people ask, why is enlightenment permanent? And I go through and I explain it in detail. So you might decide to take a look there. That'll give you some more information to be able to help you see why enlightenment is permanent.
Okay, yeah. I didn't realize those books were free. I would have taken one when I was there the other week if I'd have known, but yeah.
They're free to download, and they're free for you to take it and go print it. If somebody would like a physical copy here, they reimburse us for the printed version, or you can order it on Amazon, and then that way you get a printed version. But we can't give away the printed ones for free because otherwise we wouldn't have any resources to be able to take care of the temple and so forth.
Good. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome. I think we had a question back there.
My English is not very good, so I use the translator to ask you this question. I always pursue richness and meaningful in life. Simply, I hope to finish many things every day. Even when resting, I want meaningful relaxation to recharge myself. I will feel regretful and blame myself if I fall. I cannot finish so many tasks each day, so I think I lack ability and energy. I keep improving myself, but it makes me totally exhausted. I pursue meaningful too much. I believe a wonderful purchase without result can only comfort my mood and bring me no really gains. But I really need the gains to improve and myself to have a good life in the world.
Yeah, what you're describing is what an unenlightened being experiences. Chasing, wanting this, basing your mood on different things. it's this Eightfold Path that's going to train your mind. And I can't teach you this in 3 minutes or 5 minutes. It takes 2.5 to 3 hours to teach this. And I teach it at least once a month, if not more, in all the courses and retreats that I share. And it's also been recorded on our YouTube channel, on our podcast, and in our book. You really need to be able to learn this. There's nothing that I can share with you in 2 or 3 minutes that's going to change all of that for you, because there's multiple things that you need to learn and multiple training. So the best thing I can do in a short class like this is to guide you to learning this through our resources that I share, either books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts. I even share personal guidance, and it's all available for free. There's no cost for you to be able to experience this learning of the teachings of the Buddha. So you're going to need to learn this Eightfold Path with resources that are sharing with you the actual words of the Buddha. And that's what I'm sharing with you at no cost. So if you'd like to get one of these books, either download it or a physical copy, that's where I would suggest that you start.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Hey. Good morning, and thank you for the talk. I have a question. Sometimes me myself have some contradictory thoughts. It's like when I learn about Buddhism, it's more about being mindfulness and learn how to be content and to be happy with what you have. Sometimes having this kind of mind also, I have this kind of contradictory thoughts that if I'm content, then maybe I lose the skill for me to motivate myself to do even more. Sometimes then I look at Buddha and a lot of, let's say, teachers before us. I think they must have been very motivated to teach the people, to do a lot of work, to bring in change within people. So what is the balance that I can use there to make sure that me, myself is happy, but still to motivate myself to do something that is meaningful? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so in the unenlightened state, people will get motivation through their cravings, desires, attachments. Like if you want a bigger house, or you want more money, or you want a nicer car, you will push yourself through that craving. Your mind will long and yearn, and you're chasing after that bigger house, that nicer car, or more money in your bank account. But you will only have that ability as long as the craving is there. When that craving is burned out, you will no longer have the enthusiasm and the ambition. Your mind will swing all the way to the other side, where you're dull and lethargic and lazy. This is what the unenlightened mind does, is it either chases, or it swings to the other side where it's dull and lethargic and lazy. This is why you've maybe had certain activities that you've done at different times in your life, and you were really excited about them at the beginning. And then after you did them for 6 months, a year, 2 years, you kind of gave up on them and you weren't interested. Maybe like a musical instrument or some kind of sport, or maybe like a martial art or something like that. When you first got into it, you were really, really excited because you were functioning through craving and you were pushing yourself to do that. But once that craving burned out, you swung to the other side where you were disinterested. Neither of these two things is what the Buddha is teaching you, but that's what the unenlightened mind does, and that's what it can usually see very clearly. What the Buddha is teaching you to do is come to the middle, where you can pursue your goals, objectives, and interests with ambition and enthusiasm, but without basing your inner feelings on that. And it's the Eightfold Path that's going to teach you how to do that. The Buddha had one of the most ambitious goals I think that anybody's ever had. 2,500 years ago, he was interested in his teachings reaching the entire world, but yet he was teaching in a small region in Northeast India, speaking a very localized language, because there wasn't even an international language 2,500 years ago. But yet he was interested in his teachings reaching the entire world. So this was a goal, this was an objective that he had, this was an interest that he was working towards with wise decision making. And he did that with enthusiasm and ambition, but he wasn't chasing and longing, yearning, and he wasn't also all the way on the other side where he was dull and lethargic. He was just gradually making decisions each day to be able to move the teachings forward. And he knew at some point in the future, not during his lifetime, but at some point in the future, that this goal and objective would be met. And here it is. It's reaching the entire world. We have people in here from multiple different countries, right? And we can all speak this international language now. Now we're finally realizing his ultimate goal, which is his teachings reaching the entire world. So getting to enlightenment is not to be devoid of ambition and enthusiasm. It's not to be dull and lethargic and complacent or lazy, but it's also not chasing after things and basing your feelings on those things. And you need to be able to come to the middle. That's what the Buddha called it, the middle way. And what's going to help you to do that is, once again, the Eightfold Path. I can't teach you in 5 minutes or 3 minutes how to fix every little aspect of your life, but I can guide you to this and recommend that you learn through the books, the videos, the podcasts, in the classes, the live streams. I'm teaching all the time. In a class like this, we're just having a little discussion and answering a few questions, but all the courses and retreats and all the other programs that I teach, we go into a lot of detail into how to actually train your mind. And that's what you need, is to be able to decide that you're done with all these difficulties and struggles in day-to-day life, and that you're interested in experiencing this better way of life. So the resources are available for you. I make them all available at no cost, including personal guidance as well. So if you'd like to learn more detail to be able to solve what it is that you're struggling with, I would encourage you to start with the first book and take some of the classes to be able to understand the actual path.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Okay, I think that's all of our questions for today. Let me just check one more time. Yeah, looks like that's all our questions. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to learn more, as you heard me share, there's plenty of opportunities for that. We have classes coming up on Saturday and Sunday that you can learn. In fact, this Sunday, I'm going to be teaching chapter 15 in our book. It's titled True Love, Love Without Attachment. If you think that you're falling in love and out of love with people, or if you think that love hurts or love is painful, you're not understanding what true love is yet. And if you're not understanding what true love is, you're not going to be able to practice true love with the people around you. So therefore, you're not going to be able to experience true love. But when you understand what true love is and you practice that more and more, you'll experience more and more love in your life. So I'm going to be teaching people what love is, because oftentimes in the unenlightened state, the mind lacks wisdom of what true love is. So that's going to be on Sunday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. here at the temple. And I live stream it as well. So if you're going to be in Chiang Mai, you can attend online. And then at 6:30 on Sunday, we have a meditation here. This syncs up with the Sunday night walking market, that you can come here and do some meditation. And we have a open session of discussion there as well. On Friday night at 6 p.m., we have a social event where it's called Temple Fun Night, where we get together and we have like a little party. We play music. We have food and games and snacks and stuff like this. So if you guys would like to come hang out on Friday night at 6 p.m. with doing some wholesome things, you might decide to come here to the temple. And then there's also classes on Saturday. And then next week, I have a course Monday through Friday from 9 to 3 p.m. It's called Harmony in Relationships. This is where I'm going to teach you how to build harmony in all your relationships, because as you heard me share, by the time you get to enlightenment, you have harmony in all the relationships that you're in. You don't have anger and frustration and bitterness and hostility any longer. So you're welcome to look at our bulletin board. That's where you'll see all the options. You'll also see it on our website as well. Whatever you guys choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.